Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. Before we settle in, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy my videos. And if you'd like, let me know in the comments where you're listening from, and what time it is for you right now. I always find it strangely comforting to see how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights. Grab your favorite drink, and let's ease into tonight's story together. I found the job the same way I've found most jobs in my life. Scrolling. It was on a popular job site. Nothing obscure. Nothing hidden behind forums or private listings. Just a standard post sandwiched between warehouse night shifts and security work. Night shift telephone operator hours, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Pay, above average requirements.com. Demeanor. Good listening skills. Experience, not required. No company name. No logo. Just a short description. You will be responsible for answering incoming calls during overnight hours. Minimal workload. Quiet environment. Ideal for someone comfortable working alone. I clicked it without thinking. The application form was basic. Name, contact details, availability. No CV upload, no cover letter. At the bottom, one question stood out. Are you able to follow instructions exactly, even if you do not fully understand them? I hesitated, then ticked yes. 2 hours later, I got an email. The interview wasn't really an interview. It took place in the building itself, a narrow property on a street I'd walked down 100 times without noticing. No signage, no frosted windows, just a door with a keypad. The man who met me didn't introduce himself. He shook my hand, nodded once, and asked me to sit. He didn't ask about my work history. He asked 3 questions. Can you stay awake for long periods without stimulation? Are you comfortable with silence? If someone is distressed, can you remain calm without trying to fix things? I answered honestly. He nodded again and said, good. Then he handed me a single sheet of paper. Night shift operator procedural rules. Answer the phone within 3 rings. Be polite at all times. Do not ask questions unless instructed to do so. Do not end the call unless the caller does. Do not attempt to identify the caller. If the caller asks where they are, say, you're connected now. If the caller asks who you are, say, I'm here to listen. At the bottom, in smaller print, failure to follow these rules may result in harm, not termination. Not disciplinary action, harm. I looked up from the paper. What kind of calls are these? I asked. The man paused, as if choosing the least complicated answer. People who need to talk, he said. I asked who I'd be reporting to. No one during your shift, he replied. I asked what the phone line was connected to. He smiled slightly and said, it's easier if you don't think of it like that. Then he told me my start date. On my first night, I was shown the room, desk, chair, lamp, and the phone. Just one. No computer, no screen, no visible wiring. The phone sat in the center of the desk, like it had always been there. It rings when it rings, the man said. You don't need to do anything else. I asked what happens if no one calls. Then you get paid to sit quietly, he replied. Then he left. The building settled around me. The hum of the lights. The faint noise of traffic outside. The sound of my own breathing. For almost an hour, nothing happened. I remember thinking the rules were overkill. A bit dramatic. Probably written by someone with a flair for theater. Then the phone rang. Not loudly. Not sharply. It rang like it had been ringing for a while, and I'd only just noticed. I picked it up on the second ring. Hello, I said. There was breathing on the other end. Slow, careful. I waited. Finally a man spoke. I don't think I'm supposed to be here. I glanced at the rules on the desk. Be polite. Don't ask questions. I'm listening, I said. The man exhaled, long and shaky. It's very dark, he said. I can't see the path anymore. I didn't respond. You're still there, right? He asked. Yes. There was a pause. Then he said, you sound closer than before. That made my hand tighten on the receiver. I'm here with you, I said, because it was the closest approved response. Another pause. I think something moved, he whispered. I stopped walking. The line went dead. No click, no tone, just silence. I sat there, holding the receiver, waiting for instructions that didn't come. Eventually, I placed the phone back on the desk. It didn't ring again that night. At the end of my shift, the same man from the interview was waiting in the corridor. "Did you follow the rules?" he asked. "Yes, good." I asked if the caller was okay. He looked at me for a long moment, then said, "You did your job." I asked if I should write anything down. "There's no log," he said. "The calls don't need records." Over the next few nights, the calls came more often. Not every shift. Not on a schedule, but always late, always calm, always wrong. One woman said she could see her house but couldn't reach it. One man asked me if it was still raining where I am. Another caller cried softly for 10 minutes without speaking. I stayed polite. I listened. I followed the rules. Then, on Friday night, the phone rang once. I picked it up immediately. "Hello." The voice on the other end didn't hesitate. "You're not listed as working tonight," it said. I felt a slow chill crawl up my arms. "I'm here now," I replied carefully. There was a pause. Then the voice said, "That's not what I meant." The line stayed open. No sound, no breathing. Just the sense of being measured. I didn't hang up, because there was no rule for when the caller already knew my schedule. The phone rang again, still off the hook. The new rule was waiting for me when I arrived. It was printed on the same paper as the others, same font, same careful spacing. The sheet sat on the desk beside the phone, exactly where my hand naturally rested when I sat down. I hadn't been told there would be updates. I hadn't been told there could be updates. The list now had 8 rules instead of 7. The new one was number 4. Everything below it had been renumbered. 4. If the caller asks how long they've been connected, say, "Long enough." I read it twice, then a third time, slower. It didn't explain anything. None of the rules ever did. They just existed, like someone had already learned what not to do and was trying to save the rest of us the trouble. I stood there for a moment, holding my bag, listening to the quiet hum of the building. No one had come in with me. No one was watching. At least, not visibly. I sat down, placed the rules flat on the desk, and waited. The phone rang 10 minutes later. I answered on the first ring. "Hello." The voice on the other end was a woman's, older, measured, as if she'd practiced speaking calmly. "I don't remember when I stopped," she said. I didn't respond. "I was walking," she continued, "and then I wasn't." I glanced at the rules. "Be polite. Do not ask questions." "I'm here to listen," I said. She exhaled softly. "That's good," she replied. "I was hoping it would still be you." My stomach tightened slightly at that. "How long have I been connected?" she asked. I didn't answer straight away. I had this sudden, irrational fear that if I got this wrong, something irreversible would happen. Not to me, to her. "Long enough," I said. There was a pause, then she laughed quietly. "That figures," she said. "It feels longer." The line stayed open for several seconds after that. I could hear her breathing, steady and controlled, like someone sitting in a waiting room. Then the call ended. No click, just absence. I wrote nothing down. There was nowhere to write it. The phone didn't ring again for nearly an hour. When it did, the voice on the other end was a man's, younger this time. "Is this the right number?" he asked. I didn't answer. I was told to call if I couldn't find the exit. He continued. "You're connected now," I said, following Rule 6. He went quiet then. "That's not what I meant." I stayed silent. "There used to be signs," he said. I swear there were signs. The phone crackled faintly, not with static, but with something like distant movement. "I can hear other people," he added. "But I don't think they can hear me." I didn't respond. "Can you still hear me?" he asked. "Yes, that's good," he said. "Don't hang up." I didn't intend to. The call lasted almost 40 minutes. He spoke the entire time, describing places that sounded familiar, but slightly wrong. Corridors that curved too gently. Doors that didn't quite meet the frame. Lights that worked until you looked directly at them. At one point he asked, "Is it night where you are?" "Yes," I said. "That makes sense," he replied. "It's always quieter then." When the line finally went dead, I realized my hand was cramped around the receiver. I hadn't noticed while it was happening. Around 3 in the morning, something changed. The phone rang twice in quick succession. I answered immediately. "Hello." No one spoke. I waited, then a voice came through. Not from the receiver, but from the room itself. "Did you notice the rule change?" I froze. The phone was still pressed to my ear. "I'm listening," I said carefully. "That wasn't a caller," the voice replied. "That was for you." My heart rate increased, but only slightly, not panic. Alertness. "Rules don't change unless they have to," the voice continued. Something asked too many questions. I didn't respond. "You did well," it said. "You followed the instruction." The phone rang again, still off the hook. The voice stopped. The ringing didn't. I slowly placed the receiver back onto the cradle. The ringing stopped immediately. The room returned to silence. When my shift ended, the corridor was empty again. No supervisor. No sign of anyone else. On my way out, I checked my phone. On impulse, I searched for the job listing. I couldn't find it. Not under saved listings. Not in my email. Not on the site. The confirmation messages were still there. The start date, the shift schedule. But the original post was gone. I told myself that didn't mean anything. Listings get removed all the time. Still, when I got home, I didn't sleep straight away. I kept thinking about the rule, not what it meant, why it had been added. Because rules like that only exist after someone breaks the previous ones. And whoever had broken them had needed more than reassurance. They had needed an answer. I arrived early that night. Not because I was eager, but because I didn't trust the quiet anymore. The building looked the same as always from the outside. No lights on except the one in the back room. No movement behind the glass. Inside, everything was exactly where it should be. The desk, the lamp, the phone, the rules were still there, unchanged. I sat down and waited. The phone didn't ring for nearly 2 hours. That was unusual. Normally, there was at least one call before midnight, sometimes more. I found myself watching the phone, listening for a sound that hadn't come yet, trying not to imagine what that silence meant. When it finally rang, it startled me more than it should have. I picked up immediately. "Hello." There was no voice. I waited. I could hear something faint on the line. Not breathing. Not static. More like distance. Like listening to a room from the other side of a wall. Then, very clearly, I heard a click. The sound of a receiver being lifted. Not mine. Someone else's. I stayed completely still. "Hello," the second voice said. It was calm, professional, familiar in a way that made my skin tighten. "This line is active," the voice continued. "Please remain connected." I didn't speak. The caller didn't either. I could hear them breathing now, quick and shallow. "Can you hear me?" the second voice asked. "Yes," the caller whispered. "Good," the voice replied. "You're doing fine." I felt a slow wave of unease move through me. That was my phrase. The caller started to cry. Not loudly, not hysterically. Just the quiet, exhausted sound of someone who had been holding it together for too long. "I can't see the markers anymore," the caller said. "I think I went past them." "That happens," the second voice said gently. "Try not to panic." I tightened my grip on the receiver. I hadn't been told there were other operators. The rules didn't mention it. The training didn't mention it. No one had ever said this line was shared. "I don't think I'm supposed to be here," the caller said, voice shaking. "You're connected now," the second voice replied. "Rule 6. I felt cold. "Can you stay with me?" the caller asked. "I am," the voice said. "But you need to listen carefully." The caller went quiet. "There's a turn coming up," the voice continued. "You'll feel like you've already passed it. You haven't." The caller's breathing slowed. "I think I feel it," they said. "That's good," the voice replied. "When you reach it, don't stop walking." The line went silent. No click. No disconnect. Just nothing. I stayed frozen, the receiver still pressed to my ear, waiting for something else to happen. Nothing did. After a few seconds, I slowly lowered the phone back onto the cradle. It rang again immediately. I picked it up. "Hello." This time, the caller spoke first. "Why didn't you answer me?" they asked. My mouth went dry. "I'm listening," I said. They laughed softly. "You weren't," they said. "Someone else was." I didn't respond. They sounded like you, the caller continued. But not quite. I glanced at the rules again. Nothing about other voices. Nothing about overlapping calls. Are there more of you? The caller asked. I hesitated. I'm here to listen, I said. There was a pause. Then the caller said something that made my chest tighten. They told me not to stop walking. I felt a sudden, sharp urge to speak. To warn them, to break the rules. I didn't. That wasn't you, was it? The caller asked. No, I said quietly. Another pause. Then, very calmly, the caller said, I don't think that was supposed to happen. Before I could respond, the line went dead. I sat there for a long time after that. Long enough that I started to wonder if I'd imagined the whole thing. Then the phone rang again. I answered. Hello. There was no caller. Instead, the same calm voice from before spoke directly into my ear. You weren't meant to hear that one, it said. I swallowed. I'm listening, I replied. That wasn't a mistake, the voice continued. But it wasn't for you. I stayed silent. There are other operators, it said. There have to be. I waited. Some lines need guidance, the voice said. Some just need company. And some, it added after a pause, need direction. I felt a slow, creeping sense of understanding. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. There was a brief silence. Because you weren't ready to know, the voice said. You still follow the rules. The phone rang again, still off the hook. I placed it down carefully. The ringing stopped. When my shift ended, the rules were still there, unchanged. But someone had written a note beneath them in pen. It hadn't been there before. Do not interfere with another operator's call. I stared at it for a long time, because no one had ever said I was allowed to hear them in the first place. The note was gone when I arrived the next night. Not crossed out, not removed. Gone. The rules were back to their original state, printed cleanly, edges aligned with the desk like they had never been touched by a pen. For a moment, I wondered if I'd imagined it. Then the phone rang. I answered on the first ring. Hello. The voice on the other end was calm. Too calm. It didn't hesitate, didn't breathe into the receiver before speaking. You're going to need to guide this one, it said. My stomach tightened. I didn't recognize the voice as a caller. It was the same voice I'd heard before. The one that spoke when there wasn't supposed to be anyone on the line. I'm listening, I said. This is not a listening call, the voice replied. This is an intervention. I stayed silent. You'll do exactly what you're told, it continued. Nothing more, nothing less. The line clicked. Another call came through immediately. I didn't have time to think. I picked it up. Hello, a man's voice answered, shaking but controlled. I was told to call this number, he said. They said you'd know what to do. I glanced at the rules. No guidance for this, no exception listed. I'm here, I said. He exhaled sharply. Good, he replied. I can't stop moving. I felt a slow chill spread through me. Where are you? He asked. I didn't answer. I didn't mean that, he corrected himself quickly. I know you can't tell me. I said nothing. They said you'd help me find the right way, he continued. That you'd tell me when to turn. My fingers curled against the edge of the desk. This was wrong. This wasn't listening. This was direction. I'm not supposed to tell you what to do, I said carefully. There was a pause. Then the other voice cut in, low and close, overlapping the call. You are now. I closed my eyes. The caller's breathing had sped up. I'm coming up to something, he said. I can feel it. Describe it, the voice instructed. I hesitated. Then quietly I said, what does it feel like? The caller swallowed. Like a slope, he said, but it's flat. I repeated the description silently, trying to picture it. Keep walking, the voice said. I didn't say it. Say it, the voice insisted. My heart was pounding now, but my voice stayed level. Keep walking, I told the caller. He did. I could hear his footsteps, faint but steady. There's a sound, he said. Like wind, but not from anywhere. Don't look toward it, the voice said. I felt a wave of resistance rise in me. This wasn't reassurance. This was control. Don't look toward it, I repeated. The footsteps faltered. I think it knows I'm listening to you, the caller whispered. The voice beside me grew sharper. He's deviating, it said. Correct him, I swallowed. Focus on the ground, I said. Just the ground. The caller's breathing slowed, I think. I think it passed me, he said. Good, the voice replied. Now tell him to stop. I froze. Stopping had been the one thing every caller was warned against. I knew that instinctively, even if no rule had ever spelled it out. I can't, I said quietly. There was silence. Then the voice spoke again, colder this time. You can, it said, and you will. The caller was still moving. I'm tired, he said. I don't think I can keep going. The line trembled faintly, like something brushing against it. Tell him to stop, the voice said again. I thought of the man from my first night. I thought of the warning about not stopping. I'm here with you, I said, instead. The voice went quiet. The caller let out a shaky laugh. That helps, he said. That really helps. The footsteps slowed, but didn't stop. After a few seconds, the sound faded. The line went dead. I sat there, staring at the phone. It didn't ring again, not for the rest of the shift. When the morning came, the corridor was empty as usual. But as I stood up to leave, I noticed something new on the desk. A single sheet of paper, not printed, handwritten. You failed to follow instruction. The caller survived. This will not always be the case. I folded the paper carefully and put it in my pocket. Because no one had ever confirmed that survival was supposed to be optional. I didn't throw the note away. I read it again when I got home. Then once more before my next shift. The words didn't change, but their weight did. The caller survived. Not was safe. Not reached an exit. Survived. That suggested an alternative outcome had been expected. The building felt different that night, not physically. The lights hummed the same way. The corridor smelled faintly of dust and cleaning fluid like always. But the quiet had a new quality to it. Less empty, more attentive. The rules were back on the desk. No additions, no markings. As if nothing had happened. The phone rang before I had fully sat down. I answered immediately. Hello. A woman spoke, her voice strained but controlled. I don't want help, she said. I paused. I just want someone to stay on the line. I'm here, I said. She exhaled sharply. They keep telling me to choose, she continued. I don't want to, I didn't respond. They say it's better if I decide on my own, she said. But I don't know what happens if I don't. I felt a familiar tightening in my chest. You don't have to decide anything right now, I said. There was a pause. Then she said, that's not what the other one said. I didn't ask who the other one was. She told me to hurry, the woman continued. She said waiting makes it worse. I stayed quiet. She sounded bored, the caller added. Like she'd done this 100 times. My grip tightened on the receiver. Are you still there? The caller asked. Yes. You sound different, she said. Calmer. I'm listening, I replied. The woman went quiet. Then, softly, she told me to stop walking. Every muscle in my body went rigid. I didn't speak. I didn't, the woman said quickly. I didn't stop. I remembered what you said. Relief washed through me so suddenly, it almost made me dizzy. Good, I said before I could stop myself. The line crackled. She's back, the woman whispered. I heard it then. Not a voice. A presence on the line. Like someone leaning in too close, listening without breathing. Stop interfering, the other operator said. I said nothing. This one isn't yours, she continued. You don't get to keep them. My pulse thudded in my ears. I'm not keeping anyone, I said. I'm listening. The woman on the line whimpered softly. You're confusing her, the operator said. Indecision increases strain. What happens if she stops? I asked. There was a brief pause. Then, it ends. For who? I asked. The operator laughed quietly. That depends on how long she's been connected. The caller gasped. I don't want it to end, she said. I know, I replied. Tell her to stop, the operator said sharply. Now, I didn't. Keep moving, I told the caller. Slowly, don't rush. The operator's voice hardened. You're breaking protocol. Then write me up, I said. The line went silent. The caller's breathing steadied. I think it's gone, she whispered. It doesn't like waiting, I said. The call ended gently. No dead silence. Just release. The phone rang again almost immediately. I answered. You are not suited for intervention, the operator said. You hesitate. I listen, I replied. Hesitation causes loss, she said. So does rushing, I replied. There was a long pause. You'll learn, she said eventually. Or you'll be removed. The line disconnected. I didn't get another call for the rest of the night. But when my shift ended, something new was waiting on the desk. Another handwritten note. This one was shorter. Some operators are assigned to reduce volume. Some are assigned to reduce duration. You are interfering with balance. I folded the paper carefully, because I was starting to understand what that balance meant. Not everyone was meant to survive their call. Some were meant to conclude. And someone, somewhere, was deciding which outcome was more efficient. The next shift began with a new rule. It wasn't printed. It wasn't handwritten. It was spoken. I hadn't even sat down yet when the phone rang. I picked it up on the first ring. Hello. You are not to intervene on the next call, the voice said. Not a caller, not an operator, something administrative, neutral. Finished with the sentence. Before I could respond, I stayed silent. This call is marked for completion, the voice continued. Your role is presence only. The line clicked. The phone rang again immediately. I answered. Hello. A man spoke, breathless, words tumbling over each other. I think I messed up, he said. They said not to go this way. I closed my eyes briefly. I'm here, I said. That's not what they told me you'd say, he replied. They said you wouldn't try to stop it. I didn't answer. I can hear something behind me, he continued. It's close. I could hear it too. Not footsteps, pressure, like air being displaced. You're not allowed to help me, are you? The man asked quietly. I said nothing. That's okay, he said after a moment. I get it. Something in his voice changed then. Not panic. Acceptance. They told me this was how it would end, he said. That it would feel tidy. My jaw tightened. You don't have to rush, I said carefully. The line crackled. A different voice cut in, sharp and immediate. Presence only. The man laughed weakly. See, he said. They're very organized. I felt something cold settle in my chest. How long have I been connected? He asked. I glanced at the rules. The new rule wasn't written anywhere. Long enough, I said. There was a pause. Then he said, that's what the other one said too. The pressure on the line increased. The sound behind him grew louder, closer. I wish you'd answered this one, he said. You sound kinder. I swallowed. I'm still here, I said. I know, he replied. That's what makes it harder. The line went silent. Not dead. Silent. I waited. Nothing came back. Eventually the receiver grew heavy in my hand. I placed it back on the cradle. The phone didn't ring again. I sat there long after the shift should have ended. No one came to check on me. No note appeared. No reprimand was issued. The silence felt deliberate, as if I was meant to sit with what I'd just done, or hadn't done. When I finally stood to leave, I noticed something new beneath the rules. A tally mark. Just one. Thin. Precise. I understood immediately. Calls weren't just being answered, they were being counted. On my way home, I couldn't stop thinking about the word the man had used. Tidy. Not peaceful. Not resolved. Tidy. Like closing a file. The next night, the tally had grown. 2 marks. I hadn't been there to make them. I hadn't heard those calls. That meant other operators had. And they hadn't hesitated. The phone rang. I answered. The caller didn't speak. Instead, the familiar administrative voice returned. You are experiencing difficulties separating outcomes from responsibility, it said. I'm listening, I replied. Listening is not neutrality, the voice said. It alters duration. Is that bad? I asked. There was a pause. Then, it is inefficient. I felt a quiet anger settle in. What happens when the tally reaches a certain number? I asked. Silence. Then, operators are reviewed. I exhaled slowly. Reviewed for what? I asked. The voice softened, almost kindly. Suitability, The phone disconnected. I sat back in the chair, staring at the tally marks. They weren't a warning. They were a measure. And sooner or later, I was going to be measured against them. The review wasn't announced. It didn't come with a warning, or a note, or even a change to the rules. There was no meeting request, no supervisor waiting in the corridor. It began with an empty chair. When I arrived for my shift, the desk was the same as always. The phone sat in the center. The rules lay neatly beside it. The tally marks were still there, thin and deliberate. But opposite me, where there had never been anything before, was a second chair, identical to mine, pulled out slightly, as if someone had just stood up. I didn't sit down straight away. The building was quiet, but not empty. I had learned the difference. Empty spaces don't feel attentive. This one did. The phone rang. I picked it up. Hello. No caller spoke. Instead, the administrative voice returned, closer than before. Not louder, more focused. You are now under review, it said. I didn't respond. The review is not disciplinary, the voice continued. It is corrective. I glanced at the second chair. Sit, the voice said. I sat. The chair opposite me didn't move, but I became acutely aware of it, as if something had settled into it the moment I did. You have demonstrated variance, the voice said. Variance increases unpredictability. I follow the rules, I said. You interpret them, the voice replied. That is the concern. The phone rang again. Answer, the voice said. I picked it up. Hello, a familiar voice came through, faint but steady. You're still here, the caller said. My chest tightened. Yes, I replied. That's good, they said. The other one told me you might not be. I didn't ask who they meant. I think I'm almost done, the caller continued. I just wanted someone to hear it. I stayed silent. There's a door now, they said. I didn't notice it before. The presence in the chair opposite me felt closer. You may acknowledge, the administrative voice said quietly. No further. I'm listening, I told the caller. They laughed softly. I knew it was you. The voice beside me shifted. This is inefficient, it said. The caller inhaled slowly. I can feel it ending, they said. It's not bad, just final. The voice leaned closer. Confirm completion, it instructed. I didn't. I'm still here, I said, instead. The line trembled. The caller exhaled. That helps, they whispered. The call ended on its own. The phone went quiet. The room felt colder. That was a failure to comply, the voice said. I didn't interfere, I replied. I listened. You extended duration, the voice said. By 32 seconds, I swallowed. 32 seconds, I repeated. Yes, that mattered, I asked. The chair opposite creaked. It accumulates, the voice replied. Duration creates attachment. Attachment creates deviation. I thought of the tally marks. How many seconds am I over? I asked. Silence then, enough to be noted. The phone rang again. Answer, the voice said. I picked it up. Hello, no caller. Just breathing, slow, heavy. Someone was listening to me. You are being compared, the voice said, against acceptable operators. I felt a quiet resolve settle in my chest, and I asked. And you are not efficient, it said. But you are consistent. That's good, I said. That is problematic, the voice replied. The breathing on the line deepened. I don't want to be transferred, a voice whispered suddenly. A caller new, afraid. I felt the presence in the chair tense. There is no transfer, I said. They said there would be. The caller sobbed. They said I'd be handed over. No one is handing you anywhere, I replied. The administrative voice sharpened. Correct the caller. You're connected now, I said. The caller went quiet. Stay, they whispered. I'm here, I said. The phone clicked. Disconnected. The breathing vanished. The chair opposite me felt lighter. The administrative voice spoke again, slower this time. The review is ongoing, it said. But a determination has been made. I waited. You will not be removed, it said. You will be reassigned. To where? I asked. There was a pause. To training, the voice replied. My stomach dropped. Training who? I asked. Silence. Then, From the empty chair opposite me, a new voice spoke. Younger, nervous. "I'm sorry," it said. "I don't know what I'm supposed to say yet." I turned toward the chair. There was still no one there. The phone rang. The administrative voice returned, final and firm. "Teach them to listen," it said. "But do not teach them to care." The line went dead. The chair opposite me was empty again, but it had been moved, pulled closer to the desk. The trainee arrived without arriving. There was no knock at the door, no footsteps in the corridor. One moment the second chair was empty, and the next it wasn't. They sat very still. I didn't look at them at first. I kept my eyes on the phone, on the rules laid out beside it, on the thin tally marks etched into the desk's surface, like they had always been part of the wood. "Do I answer it?" the trainee asked quietly. The phone wasn't ringing. "No," I said. "You wait." "Oh," they replied. "Right." They folded their hands in their lap. I could hear their breathing, fast, then slower, as they tried to control it. After a minute, they spoke again. "They didn't tell me much," they said. "Just that I'd be observing." "That's how it starts," I replied. "They said you were good at this," the trainee said. I almost laughed. The phone rang. I answered on the first ring. "Hello." The caller spoke immediately, voice thin and distant. "I don't think I'm meant to be talking to two of you." I didn't react. "I can hear someone else breathing," the caller continued. "They sound scared." The trainee stiffened beside me. "I'm listening," I said. The caller paused. "That's different," they said. "The other one always says something else." I glanced sideways at the trainee. Their eyes were wide, fixed on the phone. "Don't speak," I mouthed. They nodded quickly. "I was told to keep moving," the caller said. "But it's hard to know what that means anymore." "Describe what's around you," I said. The trainee's head snapped toward me. "That's not," they started. I raised a hand slightly. "It's okay," I said quietly. "Just listening." The caller described a narrow passage, walls close enough to brush against air, heavy and damp. As they spoke, their breathing steadied. "That's helping," they said. "You're doing it again." "Doing what?" the trainee whispered, unable to stop themselves. The caller gasped. "Who was that?" they asked. The administrative voice cut in instantly, sharp and unforgiving. "Correction required." The trainee froze. "I'm sorry," they whispered. "I didn't mean remain silent," I said firmly. "I can hear you both now," the caller said. "Is that bad?" "No," I replied. "Just focus on where you are." The trainee clamped a hand over their mouth. The caller continued, calmer now, describing a bend in the passage, a faint light ahead that flickered when they blinked. "I think I see something," they said. The administrative voice returned, quieter this time. "Do not guide," it instructed. "I'm listening," I replied. The caller took a breath. "It feels like a choice," they said. "Like if I stop talking, something else will answer." The line went silent. The call ended. The trainee sagged back into the chair, breathing hard. "I ruined it," they said. "No," I replied. "You learned." They shook their head. "They said not to care," the trainee whispered. "But how do you not care when they can hear you?" "You don't think of it as caring," I said. "You think of it as staying." The trainee looked at me. "Does that make it worse?" they asked. "Yes," I said. "But it also makes it longer." The phone rang again. The trainee flinched. "Your turn," I said. They stared at the phone. "I don't know what to say," they whispered. "You say hello," I replied, "and then you listen." The trainee picked up the receiver with shaking hands. Hello." A pause. Then a voice, young and frightened. "Are you real?" The trainee looked at me, panic in their eyes. I nodded. "I'm listening," the trainee said. The caller sobbed softly. "I don't want to disappear," they said. The trainee's grip tightened. "I won't hang up," they promised. The administrative voice intervened instantly. "Incorrect response." The trainee flinched. "You can't promise that," I said quietly. "You can only stay." "I'm here," the trainee corrected themselves. The caller's breathing slowed. "That's better," they said. The call ended on its own. The trainee set the receiver down carefully, like it might break. "I think I understand now," they said. "What do you understand?" I asked. "That this place doesn't stop anything," they replied. "It just decides how long it takes." I didn't answer, because that was closer to the truth than anything I'd been told. When the shift ended, the trainee stood up. "Will I come back tomorrow?" they asked. "Yes," I said. "Will you?" they asked. I looked at the phone. "Yes," I replied. As they left, I noticed something new carved into the desk. Another tally mark, but this one was different, longer, deeper. The trainee didn't return the next night. There was no explanation, no note on the desk, no adjustment to the rules, no announcement. The second chair was gone, not pushed back, not empty, gone. The desk looked wrong without it, wider, more exposed, as if the room had decided there was no longer a need for symmetry. The tally mark carved the night before was still there. I traced it lightly with my fingertip. It was deeper than the others, cut with more intent. Whoever had made it hadn't been counting casually. They had been recording something important. The phone rang. I answered. "Hello," a voice spoke immediately, clear and composed. "You're alone again." "Yes," I replied. "That simplifies things," the voice said. I stayed silent. "The trainee has been reassigned," it continued. "They progressed faster than anticipated." "To where?" I asked. There was a pause. "Elsewhere," the voice replied. The line clicked. The phone rang again before I could respond. I picked it up. "Hello." The caller's voice was faint, but familiar. "I think I talked to you before," they said. I didn't correct them. "I remember your voice," they continued. "You stayed." "I'm here," I said. "That's what I mean," they replied. "You didn't leave when the other one did." I felt something tighten in my chest. "Where are you now?" I asked carefully. "Not moving," the caller said. "But not stopped." "That shouldn't have been possible." "Describe it," I said. "It's like standing on the edge of a word I can't say," the caller replied. "If I say it, something will hear." I stayed silent. "Am I being counted?" the caller asked suddenly. I froze. "I can hear scratching," they said. "Like someone keeping score." I glanced at the desk. The tally marks looked darker than before. "I don't know," I said honestly. The caller laughed quietly. "That's okay," they said. "I think I know what they're for." I waited. "They're not counting us," the caller continued. "They're counting you." My grip tightened on the receiver. "How many?" the caller asked. I didn't answer. "I've been listening," they said. "Longer than you think." The line crackled. A second voice joined the call. Not administrative. Not another operator. This one was closer. "He's starting to notice," it said. I felt cold. "Notice what?" I asked. "That the marks go up, whether the caller survives or not," the voice replied. "They only change when you do." The caller exhaled slowly. "You're the variable," they said gently. "Not us." The second voice grew sharper. "This conversation is not approved." "You already know," the caller continued. "Every time you hesitate, every time you choose presence over closure, the mark gets deeper." The line trembled. "They're measuring deviation," the caller said. "From what you were hired to be." I swallowed. "Why?" I asked. There was a pause, then the closer voice replied. "Because eventually," it said, "you'll stop being an operator." The call ended abruptly. The room felt heavier afterward. I looked down at the desk. A new tally mark had appeared, not beside the others. Below them, long, deliberate, final. I understood then. The tallies weren't counting callers. They weren't counting deaths. They were counting how far I had moved from the rules. Each mark represented a choice. Each deeper cut marked a moment I'd stayed when I should have concluded. The trainee hadn't been reassigned because they progressed. They'd been reassigned because they hadn't deviated enough. I had. The phone rang again. I answered. "Hello." No caller, just breathing. Then, softly, the administrative voice spoke. "You are approaching threshold." "Of what?" I asked. "Of relevance," it replied. The breathing stopped. The line disconnected. I sat there for a long time after that. Long enough to realize something else. The phone hadn't rung randomly in weeks. The calls were coming when I was needed. Not by them. By the line itself. The phone rang before I touched it. That was new. Usually, It waited for me to sit, for the lamp to be switched on, for the rules to be placed flat on the desk, aligned just right. This time, it rang while I was still standing. I froze in the doorway. The sound filled the room differently when you weren't ready for it. It didn't echo. It didn't grow louder. It simply occupied the space, like it had always been ringing and the room had only just decided to let me hear it. I crossed the room slowly and picked up the receiver. Hello. For the first time since I'd started the job, the voice on the other end was mine, not a recording, not distorted. My voice, exactly as it sounded in my head. "You're late," it said. I didn't respond. "I know," the voice continued. "You always are, at first." My hand tightened around the receiver. "This line isn't for you," I said. The voice laughed softly. "That's what you were told," it replied. "Not what's true." I glanced at the rules. They hadn't changed. But I realized something then. None of them said the operator could not be a caller. "How long have I been connected?" the voice asked. I swallowed. "Long enough," I said. There was a pause. "Good," the voice replied. "Then we can skip the early part." The room felt smaller. "Why now?" I asked. "Because you reached threshold," the voice said. "Because you stayed." I leaned against the desk without sitting. "I didn't agree to this," I said. "You did," the voice replied. "When you didn't hang up, the phone crackled faintly. You were hired to listen," the voice continued. "But you learned something else." "What?" I asked. "That presence changes structure," it said, "and structure reacts." I closed my eyes. "I don't want to be on the other side," I said. The voice softened. "Neither did the rest," it replied. I felt something shift then. Not fear, but understanding. The line wasn't a place, it was a process. Movement without distance. Duration without time. "Is this what happens to operators who deviate?" I asked. "Yes," the voice said. Eventually, I thought of the trainee. "Did they reach this point?" I asked. There was a pause. "Not yet," the voice replied. "They concluded." I opened my eyes. "And me?" I asked. "You're still listening," the voice said. "That's why you're still here." The phone rang again, still off the hook. Another call was coming in. "Answer it," the voice instructed. "I can't," I said. "I'm already on the line." The voice laughed quietly. "That's the mistake," it said. "You always were." The ringing grew louder, not sharper, just more present. "You can hang up," the voice said. "If you want." My chest tightened. "And if I do?" I asked. The voice paused. "Then the line will adjust," it said. "It always does." I thought of the callers, the pauses, the choices, the tally marks. "How many operators reached this point?" I asked. "Enough," the voice replied. The ringing stopped. The room returned to silence. I was still holding the receiver. But the line was dead. No breath, no presence. Just the hum of the building. I slowly placed the phone back on the cradle. It didn't ring again. Not that night. When my shift ended, I didn't leave right away. I sat at the desk, staring at the rules. They no longer felt like instructions. They felt like a record of how this had always been done. I noticed something new at the bottom of the page. Not written, impressed into the paper, faint but undeniable. Operators who listen long enough are eventually heard. I folded the rules carefully and put them in my bag. For the first time, I considered what would happen if I didn't come back. And for the first time, I realized the line might follow. I didn't come in the next night. I told myself it was a test, a reasonable one. Jobs end all the time. People stop turning up. Buildings don't chase them down the street. I slept poorly. Not because of nightmares, but because of the silence. I kept waiting for a sound that never came, a ring, a vibration. Something that would tell me I'd been noticed. Nothing happened. In the morning, I felt foolish for expecting otherwise. By the afternoon, the feeling had changed. The world felt slightly out of alignment. Not wrong, just offset. Like I was standing half a step to the left of where I should have been. I went about my day, bought groceries, answered messages, made small talk with a neighbor I barely knew. Everything functioned as expected. But everywhere I went, there were phones. On the bus, someone answered a call and laughed softly. In the shop, a mobile rang somewhere in the aisles, echoing too long for the space it was in. At the crossing, a man held a handset to his ear long after the light changed, listening intently to nothing I could hear. That evening, my own phone rang. I stared at the screen. No number, just a blank field where information should have been. I didn't answer. It rang exactly 3 times, then stopped. I exhaled slowly and told myself that was coincidence. I told myself a lot of things. That night, I dreamed of the desk. The lamp was off. The room was dark. The phone sat in the center, receiver lifted, ringing into empty air. When I awoke, my phone was in my hand. I hadn't picked it up. I was holding it the way I held the receiver at work. I returned to the building the following night. Not because I wanted the job back, because I needed to know if it would let me go. The door opened without resistance. No keypad, no code. It hadn't been locked. Inside, the corridor lights were on. The room at the back was unchanged. Desk, chair, lamp, phone. The rules were gone. The tally marks remained. There were more now, not carved into the desk, into the wall behind it. Long vertical lines, uneven, some deeper than others, as if the surface itself had resisted. The phone rang. I answered. Hello. The administrative voice came through immediately. You tested disengagement, it said. I quit, I replied. You paused participation, the voice corrected. That is not the same. I don't want this anymore, I said. There was a pause. Want is not a factor, the voice replied. Connection is. I felt tired then, not afraid, not angry, just tired. Why me? I asked. Because you stayed, the voice said. Because you listened past necessity. That was my job, I said. No, the voice replied. That was your choice. The line clicked. Another call came through. I didn't answer. The phone rang again, and again. On the third ring, my own phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out. The screen lit up. Incoming call. No number. No name. Just the word connected. I looked back at the desk phone. It had stopped ringing. You can leave, the administrative voice said gently. But the line will remain open. I don't accept, I said. The voice paused. Then, acceptance is not required. The call on my mobile connected automatically. I raised it to my ear. There was breathing on the other end. Slow, familiar. Then my voice spoke. You're doing well, it said. Most people don't make it this far. I closed my eyes. I don't want to guide anyone, I said. You already do, the voice replied. Every time you stay. The breathing stopped. You can return to the desk, the voice continued. Resume function. What happens if I don't? I asked. A long pause. Then, the calls will come anyway. The line went dead. I stood there for a long time, phone in my hand, staring at the marks on the wall. They weren't tallies, they were doorways. Each one a place where someone had stayed too long. Listened too closely. Been heard. I understood then. There was no promotion, no reassignment, no escape. Only duration and presence, and whether I would sit at the desk or answer wherever the line reached me next. I went back to the desk. Not because I was told to. Not because I was afraid of what would happen if I didn't. Because the silence outside the room felt incomplete. The building accepted me without ceremony. No lights flickered. No doors resisted. The corridor hummed softly, as if it had been waiting. The room was unchanged. The desk stood where it always had. The lamp cast the same soft pool of light. The phone rested in the center, receiver properly placed, cord coiled neatly beside it. The wall behind the desk was covered now. Not completely. There were still spaces left. But the marks stretched higher than before, uneven and overlapping, some faint, some deeply cut. They weren't tallies, they were durations. I sat down. The phone did not ring. I waited. For the first time since I'd started the job, there were no rules on the desk. No printed instructions. No handwritten warnings. Nothing telling me what to do or how to behave. Just the phone. After a few minutes, it rang. I answered on the first ring. Hello. The caller did not speak. I waited. I don't know where I am, a voice said finally. Young, unsteady. I just know I've been here a long time. I'm listening, I said. The caller exhaled. That helps, they replied. I think I was supposed to hear that. They began to describe their surroundings, not in detail, not with fear, just carefully, as if choosing words mattered, as if naming things made them more solid. I did not guide them. I did not reassure them. I stayed. The call ended on its own. The phone rang again. And again. Some callers spoke. Some didn't. Some cried softly. Some laughed at strange moments. Some asked questions I did not answer. I stayed. Hours passed. Or maybe they didn't. Time behaved differently in that room. It always had. At some point, I noticed the marks on the wall changing, not increasing, shifting. Some faded slightly, others deepened. I realized then that the marks were not records of failure. They were traces of listening. Every place where someone had been heard long enough to leave an impression. The phone rang. I answered. The voice on the other end was calm, familiar. You've resumed function, the administrative voice said. I never stopped, I replied. A pause. That is not how it was recorded, the voice said. I'm not being recorded, I replied. Another pause. Longer this time, then quietly. You understand now? Yes, I said. You are not required to continue, the voice said. I know. Then why are you still there? It asked. I thought for a moment. Because the line doesn't need rules, I said. It needs someone to stay. The voice did not respond. The call ended. The phone rang again. I answered. Hello? The caller whispered. I was afraid no one would pick up. I'm here, I said. And I was. I don't know how long I stayed at the desk after that. Days, years, moments stacked on top of each other. Sometimes I think about leaving again. But then the phone rings. And I answer. Not because I have to, but because someone, somewhere, is reaching out into the dark, and if no one stays on the line, the silence answers instead. If you ever hear a phone ringing when no one else does, don't be afraid. It doesn't mean you're lost. It just means you've been connected, and someone is listening.